Hey guys, welcome back to JD Mods. As you can see, I am in the freshly painted inside engine bay. I just finished the paint job in the last video, and so now today we are just going to be putting a bunch of stuff back in the car. Suspension, trim pieces, not the motor probably in today's video, but just every other little accessory. We're going to make sure to paint everything up really nice and clean it up before we put it in. But I'm just going to make a little video about this just to show you guys the progress fully from start to finish. So probably not the most exciting video, but might still be interesting if you're looking to do something like this yourself, or you just like watching a really clean car being built. So let's get started. First, I'm going to start with the window regulator motor and the trim piece and a few hinges. So I was about to install this windshield cowling on the car, but I'm really trying to do this build properly, and I noticed it's really dusty actually, and just dirty in general and kind of sun faded. So first we're going to give it a dust off, and then we're going to use some of this Back to Black Restorer for plastic. This is really good for inside your engine bay and a few pieces like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys just how much of a difference it makes. So I just finished the Back to Black and installing the cowling, and it might be kind of hard to show on camera, but for a 2002 car with the original cowling, it looks amazing, especially when contrasting with the chrome silver paint. I just think it looks amazing. And so also what I did to make sure it looks as new as possible was I did a bunch of painting of some of the steel components on the car. I have the brake booster, this little steering rack protector, wiper blades, and just some random brackets. This bracket here, for example, is just the bracket that holds the master cylinder reservoir for the clutch. It used to be really rusty before, so just a couple hits with some black engine enamel spray paint really brought it back to life. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and just start reinstalling all that stuff on the car. So before starting the montage of me assembling the engine bay, I thought I would give a quick tip of just assembling a random component, such as this little random bar that the Insight uses. So I already polished up these aluminum bars. I didn't paint them since the aluminum will never rust. I just kind of polished them up. And also the corresponding bolts. These are the factory bolts that were really rusty. So all I did was wire wheel them to take off all the rust. Now before assembling, I really want to make this car brand new. So I'm starting by tapping the factory mounting hole. This is an M8 by 1.25 tap. And I'm using a tapping handle rather than a drill, just because if you start to use a drill, there's a higher chance that you'll tap it on an angle, which will cross thread the hole. So I'm definitely far enough in now that I can back it off. This is a ratcheting tap handle, which makes it a little easier and quicker, even if it doesn't look like it is. So as you can see, well probably not, but there is quite a bit of dirt, corrosion, and a little bit of silver paint on the end of my tap handle. So now when I go and assemble it, you can see that the bolt will slide in very easily with no resistance. This makes it very easy to assemble and easy to service if for some reason this ever has to be removed. And because this is an aluminum chassis with an aluminum thread, I am going to be using some anti-seize on all of my fasteners that go into the frame. So I'm just going to put a very little bit on the thread. That's perfect, because steel in contact with raw aluminum will cause the different metals to kind of corrode and interact with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and finish assembling these parts, and I'll show you the end result. So I've done a bit more work off camera. As you can see, I have reinstalled the brake booster, the brake master cylinder, and a few other pieces. And before installing, I've also been grinding off all the rust and painting all the pieces. Here's a quick example of the clutch master cylinder I just installed. This bracket right here used to be really rusty, so I ground out the rust, painted it black, and I also cleaned the reservoir itself so it's all brand new looking, and same goes for the brake master cylinder and reservoir as well. So my next one that I'm doing is the steering rack. So as you can see, I've already tossed some black and silver paint on the steering rack, but the problem is that the old brackets right here are really rusty. So now what I'm going to do is hit all these with a wire wheel and paint them up, and I'll show you how different they look after the job. The parts have now been wire brushed. As you can see, there's very minimal rust on all of them, and they are warming up in front of the fire to get nice and warm. And now I'm going to go ahead and lay them down with some black engine enamel. There is this steering rack completely installed with the new black painted brackets. As you can see, it looks a lot nicer than before. So the steering rack itself and all the hardware has been painted, as you can see. So the engine bay is coming along really nicely, and I'm just going to install a few more things to finish off today's video. So it's been a little while. I got a little bit more installed on the K-Sight engine bay, but if you didn't notice, it's a little bit brighter in here. As you can see, everything looks a lot more well defined, and there's a reason for that. We just installed these brand new bulbs. They're these high lumen LED bulbs. They're 5,000 lumens, and all we needed to do was install 4 of them, and if you cannot tell, it makes a world of difference. So now with the new lighting, let me show you this engine bay a little bit better if it can focus. There it is. So there's the steering rack that you already saw me install, and then just off camera I installed the kind of steering arms, whatever you call them, going to the tie rod ends on both sides. I can show you in here. So as you can see, we got the tie rod ends. I broke all the nuts loose and anti-seized them to make sure the alignment people don't give me a hard time. And then I reinstalled the struts. The struts were a little rusty, so I painted them with some black rust paint. This is some new tie rod ends and new sway bar end links. So now, to finish off this video, I think what I'm going to do is just work on the wiring harness. So right now it is all in this bag right here. So I'm going to go ahead and unravel it and do my best job to tuck it and just reconnect all the grounds, bolt the fuse box back up, and then that will probably be the end of this video. There is the electrical fuse box installed. I really only did the wiring harness from back here through the fender up here, and then just kind of bolted in the fuse box. I decided not to do this half because it gets tucked under the front kind of hood latch support area, and I'm gonna have that out to put the motor in. And to be honest, sometimes with the K20 swaps, the large intake manifolds will hit this, so you have to make an aftermarket one anyway. So until all that is figured out, I just put the rest of the wiring harness in the bag. Also, as you can tell, we have just installed the fenders. I just put those on there to kind of clean up the look of the car a little bit. And that is going to conclude today's episode. The Insight engine bay is now fully built, or sorry, kind of assembled. And the next episodes will be building this K20 Z1 right below me here. We're going to be freshening up stuff like the valve cover. Going to be cleaning up the intake manifold, giving it a big refresh, then putting it in the minty fresh engine bay. So hopefully you guys like this video. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.